They want to know not only about what you're going to talk about, the forfeiture action, which is like
I can't see the chat. You got to tell me.
I couldn't read it, but they also want to know what's happening in the records case. So, Ashley, the floor is yours.
Do we start with that? Okay.
This is actually very good timing because I literally was just checking my phone to see, and guess what?
You got some money in the bank?
Guess what wire just came through?
No.
Seriously? She paid you?
Yep.
Oh, man. Congratulations.
Just came through about an hour and a half ago.
Oh my God. We have to, Ashley, you got to tweet that. That's amazing.
I know. I just saw it. Because we knew we had a request for our wire instructions, and I was like, oh, I thought we'd be getting a check, but it was due yesterday. So we got it wired from Fulton County today. Because if they didn't pay it on time, they're going to get post-judgment interest. So
So I'm so glad I didn't bet more than I bet you $10. I bet LKB $10 that you would not have the money yet and you would not have the records yet.
Oh, I don't have the records.
Well, that's only so I only lost $10. But I said I could bet you $1 million because she is not going to get that money. Whew, that was a close call.
But they didn't do that.
$10 I can afford.
That's exactly. You're never getting that money. Okay.
I know. I mean, literally hot off the press just happened.
That's very
I was a little surprised myself, but the one thing I think about is in civil cases in Georgia, if you're going to appeal, you have to actually post part of the judgment as what's called a supersedious bond. Right. So I'm just wondering if maybe they said, we're cutting our losses at this point, because then they also would have attorney's fees for the appeal. I mean,
I just so
that
people
should
know
logical.
what the history of this. Can you just give everyone the short history for people that don't know?
It's it's kind of crazy because I was reading she filed a notice, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but they filed a notice last night just re-objecting to everything and re-saying I'm an awful person. But so it kind of like jogged my memory, and I was like, God, this has been so long. It's been like 2 years trying to get records that aren't this crazy category of records. Like one of the things that she focused on a lot, and I'll just use this as an example to kind of catch everyone up, is what's going on. I forgot I had asked this. I asked for a list of all attorneys she had in her office, like a roster. And when you ask for something like that, you certainly don't think that's going to become subject of a lawsuit that you end up, in the whole $50,000 on attorney's fees. I mean, it's crazy, but that was something that they fought. They fought giving me a list. And I never really understood why they fought that. Cause I was like, God, that seems so simple. Like, this isn't really controversial. And it looked like in her notice that she thought I was going to go and call all the former employees maybe and see if they would talk to me. I don't know. And I was like, God, that's a great idea, but I never really even thought about doing that. I was literally just trying to trace the money and see, because she had asked for like 55 new positions and she said she needed them for the backlog. And I was just going to try and trace, did you actually use the money for what you told them you were going to use the money for? Didn't think it was that controversial. But so one of the things I did an open records for was, these lists of attorneys, and, they wouldn't give it to me. They just kept refusing and kept refusing and kept refusing. And so we had to file a lawsuit. I got a list of attorneys. So I did get that yesterday. But there's a lot of things that we did not get. We got a affidavit saying this is all we got. It's unfortunate because I know it's not, because I've gotten them from other sources. And I'm going to go through it and see what we're doing at this point, but it's been a lot of work to get some documents that.
So let me follow up on that, because it sounds like now you've got another issue with them. If you have documents that make it very clear they exist, and they have now filed an affidavit that is under penalty of perjury that they don't exist, you got them. So what do you do with that?
But, we've had so many under penalty of perjuries here where they're like, oh, oops, I thought you meant, documents. I was only swearing to pink documents, they're just parsing words out here. So yeah, I think they've definitely misrepresented facts multiple times, sworn to things. And that was one of the things the judge wanted, was them to actually swear that they had gone and searched for these. The problem with the affidavit is it's deficient. It doesn't really go into detail. The judge had said they need to detail all the things that they had done to try and find this. I was sort of expecting, like, we did a search all for something, something more specific. And it didn't have any of that. So it's extremely vague. Not quite sure what to do with it. I'm going to have to go back through and, and see what else is outstanding, but there's definitely documents out there that they did not provide.
Yeah, but the breaking news is Ashley Merchant, the Merchant law firm, and Ashley and her husband worked so hard on this. They were ordered to be reimbursed $54,000 plus, I think it was $123.
And some change. Yeah, some change. Yeah.
54, and all of us thought that's never going to happen. I'm sure you did too. And on the last day, Fani Willis's worst nightmare, the great attorney, Ashley Merchant, and her law firm have been paid. Now, the problem with that, of course, is that I'm sure she didn't take it out of her own personal money that she carries in her purse, for rainy days.
That would have been cash. That would have been just a bag of cash.
Yeah.
Cash. So
yeah, I'm sure it's not coming as a line item, and I hope the county commissioners will figure that out and somehow, figure out how to get it out of hers. The one thing I was happy about, I'll say, from the affidavit and their little notice that they filed, which was weird. It was like, they filed this thing called a notice, and it was essentially a protest saying, we don't agree with this, but we lost, so we have to do this. But it was like they just couldn't pay, and they just couldn't finalize this without saying, I'm awful, I'm a liar. I mean, some of the language in it was like that me and my cronies have, prevailed. I mean, it was just nuts. It's just, the hyperbole is crazy. But I think that what they just had to sort of try to have this last word, which is, it's just crazy. When we do law, like, we don't always get the last word. You don't always win. You can't change the facts, I guess maybe they should practice doing criminal defense, because we get really used to losing as criminal defense lawyers. I mean, and I'm not saying like that's, that we're bad lawyers, but I can't change the facts, like I can't change the facts. So, doing this 20 something years, you get used to it. You're like, I'm just dealt the hand I'm dealt with. But yeah, they did finally pay, which was good, because they made us work way harder than anybody should have had to work to get these documents. And, a lot of the money and a lot of the lawyers' time was responding to just junk. I mean, just things where they were just calling me names. I mean, it's just crazy. Like I don't draft legal pleadings where I'm calling the parties names. It's just insane to me, but that's what these are.
Well, I think it's probably best you got it wired, because a check, I don't know, it might have been a race to the bank. And it's too bad that it's taxpayer dollars, but I do think
100%. And I will say, to that point, we lowered our fees a lot. Yeah. It was one of those things where it's like, it had to be enough of a deterrent, but also, I mean, it's not fair. I don't want to work for free for Fulton County, Right. So, I mean, it's not fair for me and my husband, ask him to work for free, because he essentially represented me. I mean, he's the civil lawyer. He had to represent me. So we needed to be compensated, but we tried to be very fair with our fees. We tried to charge something along the lines of what Nathan Wade charged, not nearly as much, clearly, but.
The judge orders. The judge goes. People have to understand. The judge goes through the fee application and makes sure that it's real, that it's truthful, that it's not onerous to the other side.
We had to testify. Yeah, Linda, I had to testify. John had to testify, and our paralegal, first time ever, had to testify, because we had paralegal fees. And so she had to testify as to her time, the time that she spent. Wow. And the judge can cut through that. And she cut some of it, because there was one motion that we had to respond to that we ended up dismissing that claim. And so she cut that little bit of time, which is, we said, we totally understand, that's fine. We'll eat that time. And we reduced our hourly fees. We only charged $300 an hour, which is, I think, very fair. Both of us have been practicing over 20 years. Like that's a government rate. And it was litigious. I'm not going to lie. Like, this was one of those cases, and I do high stakes criminal defense. I mean, this is one of those cases where you're in the trenches, and it's like hard labor, drafting a brief where someone's not, calling you names and lying and saying all this stuff is not hard labor. But this case was hard labor. I mean, this open records case was hard.
We remember Dexter Q. Bond, who said that any request that came in from you, there was a special place that it went, like the trash can. He didn't say that exactly, but that was the implication, that if it was from you, it wasn't considered a real FOIA request.
I'm glad you said his name, because I would have forgotten. I would have been so mad at myself for not saying this. One other little thing that came out of this, when we got their notice, that they filed, the lady who is the in-house counsel for the DA's office has taken over open records. It is no longer.
protect that.
Oh, how sad is
Mm.
that?
I
How
mean, John said maybe we should offer to donate a couple grand back for them to go to like a CLE on open records law.
And maybe you're
interesting.
teaching it. That would be great.
Oh, I said, John, you need to teach that. I mean, if you remember in the YSL, they had to go to Brady retraining.
Oh,
and
I'm
maybe
sure
we
that
have some
was.
open records
Yeah.
retraining in the works.
Do you think they're trying to
Speaking
buy you off, keep you quiet, make you happy, make you go away?
Oh, I don't know. If anybody's met me, I don't shut up easily, but